Welcome to the .NET MAUI DataForm tutorial. In this video, I will demonstrate how to utilize smartpaste in the feedback form by integrating an AI service into the Syncfusion .NET MAUI DataForm. I open an existing MAUI application. Here, I've already configured the .NET MAUI DataForm control to display the feedback form. To learn how to add the .NET MAUI DataForm control to your MAUI application, watch the video linked in the YouTube card above or the description below. Now I run the application. Once the application is loaded, you will see the feedback form displayed. Next, I will show you how to paste the feedback into a data form using the AI service, which automatically sorts the text, ratings, and other details into the appropriate fields. I begin by integrating an AI service into the application. So, I open the NuGet Package Manager and switch to the Browse tab. I search for the Azure AI OpenAI NuGet package, select it, and install it in my project. In this example, I will be using Azure OpenAI. However, you can choose any chat completion service. If you decide to use Azure OpenAI, make sure that you have access and have configured deployment through the Azure portal. Next, I install the Azure Identity NuGet package to securely authenticate the Azure services without storing API keys. Additionally, I have already installed the Microsoft Extensions AI OpenAI package, which allows for seamless AI integration into applications. After these packages are installed, I create an Azure OpenAI service class to handle interactions with Azure OpenAI. I begin by declaring three constants: endpoint, to specify the Azure endpoint URL for API calls, deployment name, which is the name of the AI model, and key, which is the API key for authentication. These values are essential for connecting to Azure OpenAI. I also define two internal properties: client, which represents the AI model interface, and chat history, which stores the conversation history. To ensure that the application can communicate with Azure OpenAI services and handle AI requests, I create a getAzureOpenAI method and call it in the constructor. Within the try block, I create an instance of Azure OpenAI client using the provided Azure endpoint and API key. Then, I store the created OpenAI client instance in the client property. Next, I create a getResponseFromGPT method to interact with OpenAI and generate a response. I reset chat history to an empty string to ensure that previous conversation data does not interfere with the current request. I check whether both the client and chat history are not null, and then add a system message that defines the assistant's role to guide the AI's responses to be more relevant. Then, I append the user's input to the chat history. Within the try block, I call the completeAsync method to send the conversation history to OpenAI and return the response. If any failure occurs, it returns an empty string. Next, I move to the main page XAML to add the click event. In the button control, I add the click event for the smartpaste and submit buttons. Now, I navigate to the main page CS file to implement the event handler method. First, I define a field, clipboard text, to store the text copied from the clipboard. Then, I create an instance of the Azure OpenAI service class, which has already been defined. Within the onSmartPaste button clicked method, I check whether the clipboard contains any data, then retrieve the text and store it in the clipboard text field. If the clipboard is empty, I set an alert message to notify the user, and the execution stops. Before proceeding, ensure that you have installed the Newtonsoft JSON NuGet package to enable serialization and deserialization of JSON data exchanged with AI services for populating form fields. I convert the data object into a JSON string for AI processing. I construct a structured prompt for the AI to process the clipboard data and integrate it with form fields. I then call the getResponseFromGPT method from the AI service class to receive the responses. Lastly, I call the process smartpaste data method, which handles AI responses and updates the form. In this method, I first convert the AI response into a dictionary object. Next, I create two lists to store the field names and their corresponding value. I use a for-each loop to iterate over each key value pair in the OpenAI JSON data dictionary. Then, I extract field names and values and add them to the list. I check if the data object is an instance of feedback form. If it is, I assign field values to the corresponding properties in the form. I use a for loop to iterate through all extracted field names, and call the update editor method to refresh the UI for each updated field. Then, I move to the onSubmit button clicked method, which is triggered when the Submit button is clicked. In this method, I check whether the feedback form is not null. Next, I call the validate method to ensure that all required fields are filled and that the data is valid. If the data is valid, I display a pop-up alert message to the user confirming successful form submission. Otherwise, I display an alert asking the user to fill in any missing fields. When the application is loaded, I copy the feedback details and paste them using the smartpaste button. You will see that the details have been filled in successfully. Let me wrap up this video. You have learned to utilize smartpaste in the feedback form by integrating an AI service into the Syncfusion .NET MAUI DataForm. If you would like to see this example's working code, download it from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also included a link where you can check if you qualify for our community license, which gives you a free license key for all our .NET MAUI controls. If you found this video helpful, click the like button and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.